Hi and welcome to a new video. This week I want to talk about programming drums. Something I do a lot and have done for many years. I love drums. I think I was probably a drummer in my previous life. And I've been very blessed with getting to work with many of the greatest drummers in history, like Jeff Porcaro, Vinnie Colaiuta, and John Robinson, etc. I just love drums. I mean, the groove is the foundation of basically all music we do. And if you have a decent band with an amazing drummer, the band is going to be amazing. And if you have a great band with a decent drummer, the band is going to sound decent. So it's drummers are driving the song and the sound and everything more than anything else. So there are some tricks to program live sounding drums to make them sound more like a real drummer. Even if you, like me, I like using the full quantize. I don't really move around drums a lot. I like when it's tight, but I like to work with dynamics and little tricks to make it sound more like a real drummer. And I use the Toontrack Superior 3, which I think is the best sounding drum program in the world. Their Hansa drums, recorded at the legendary Hansa studio in Berlin, are simply amazing. And the way that you can work within the program like you really were in that studio, the way you set up microphones and mix everything, it's just amazing. So I have this trick where I usually use that as the foundation for my programming, and normally when you would record live drums, you would use samples to trigger bass drum and snare drum, and sometimes even the toms. So I have a setup already made of a bass drum and a snare drum that I love. It blends really well with most of the stuff that I do, and I've set it up in a very simple way I'll show you. But I also have a trick where I use another Toontrack drum program, the first one they ever made, called Easy Drums, to make ghost notes. That makes a huge difference in the live feeling. So I'm just going to show you a classic mistake that a lot of people do when they program drums, is that they program them stiff. They sound like a drum machine. So if I'll give you a quick example. So it's kind of stiff. I'll do a bass drum and snare drum to this. I'm not saying that everyone does it, but it's very common that people program it very stiff, the same kind of dynamic on everything, which is not how a drummer would play it. So what you need to do is you need to program drums with dynamics the way a musician would play it live. I like using a lot of different hi-hats. Because drummers open and close their hi-hats a lot. So I'll just do a little 2-bar drum thing to show you how I would build it with more dynamics. So you get what Jeff Porcaro used to call an inner loop, where it goes. So you build the dynamics a little better. Same with the bass drum and snare drum. All the little double hits on the bass drum are not usually as hard as the main hits. So to get the dynamic, you have to play it that way. So that's as basic as you can get with the drums. So what I do now is I've made the sampling of the bass drum and snare drum on the same keys that I play with Toontrack, and I use a sample player in Logic. So you can do the same thing with any program you use. So all I need to do is make a copy of the bass drum and snare drum down to that track, and instantly I have a fatter sound. And this is what I showed you in the first video I made a week ago, where I made a setup template. It's ready to go for me in Logic when I start something. I've done all my compression and equalizers and reverbs and stuff, so it sounds almost like a finished album when I program. It gives me more inspiration when I work on the song. So the trick that I do is actually then with the Easy Drummer, it's a great sounding drum kit by itself. But what it has is the ability to play ghost notes that sound very realistic. So when you add the ghost note kind of playing to what I programmed, it right away sounds more like a drummer. So if I remove the sampling and the ghost notes, you'll hear right away what just this little trick will do to drum programming. Just brings it up, makes it more live, more like, because if you look at a drummer with all the gear they have, everything is resonating against each other. There's a lot of noise going around outside the actual hits, and that's what makes a drum kit sound cool. So another thing that I love doing is I got a shaker and a tambourine that I've used on most songs that I do for live drums. It just adds a little extra vibe to it. So this is what I would do for this. Again, if I take away that little percussion and ghost note and sample, this is the difference. So it makes a huge difference in making things sound alive. The same when you do, let's say I would do a drum fill, going over from one section to another. I'll do something quick. When you add a little ghost notes and stuff, it again makes it sound more realistic. So I'll just come up with something quick. Just that little extra ghost vibe underneath makes it sound more like a real drummer. And I thought it could be fun to honor my old buddy Jeff Porcaro by doing a very quick program version, sort of his famous Rosanna beat, just to show you what the difference with these sounds is when you're trying to program a shuffle beat, which is one of the hardest beats for many people to make it sound correct. So of course it's a shuffle, so the beat would be different. I'll actually make it with a little open hi-hat inside of that. A little better. And I think the basic beat of Rosanna is something like this. And I'll do my little sampling trick. It sounds pretty good because I played it with dynamics and not too stiff, but it lacks the classic thing that Jeff was a master of, and same with Steve Gadd and a lot of these drummers, the ghost notes that actually make the whole groove. The shaker, because I like the way it blends with the hi-hat. They usually go well together. And of course you would add. So again, on this, I'll remove the crash for now. I'll mute the sample and the ghost notes and the shaker, again to give you an idea what the little extra stuff does for the sound. And the cool thing about making the ghost notes on a separate track with a separate program is that you can bounce them down separately from the snare if you like, and of course work easier with the volume of blending them together. So I'm just showing you a really fast way of how I do my drums for most of the work. So this was of course just a few short examples of my basic setup. Depending on the song and the sound and the style and everything that I do, I would change the programs, the settings. It all depends on that. I even like using a lot of the MIDI libraries in Toontrack. They have a lot of great drum fills and grooves and stuff that you can combine. If you want a really natural sounding fill, you can actually use a MIDI file from them and program the rest of the song. And sometimes I'll take a part of a MIDI file and I'll cut it up and I program the second half or the lead, whatever leads up to it. So it's not that hard making sounds, especially these days. There's so many great programs, with Slate and so on. I personally just like the Toontrack stuff, especially Superior 3. I think that one It's really like going into a major studio anywhere in the world, top class studio with a great drummer with the best gear, setting it up perfectly. It really feels like you're in that studio because you can move around and use up to like 7.1 surround kind of sound microphones anywhere, and blend and fix and mix within the program. It's just a stunning program. So for me that works really well, and when I need the ghost notes, that's what I use the Easy Drummer for. And then I use my samples and this and that. But I also add, I like using stylus to add, other kind of loops and stuff. It all depends on the music. When I do more pop and R&B kind of music, I use maybe more pure samples and program it more, of course, because pop music is supposed to be a little bit more stiff, even though, of course, you need the groove to be cool, but it's a different kind of thing than what I did now, which is supposed to emulate a real drummer, the way they play. So I'm gonna do a lot more songs in coming videos in all kinds of styles. If you listen to the intro song of this video, I combined a drum loop with my programming to make it more funky. So again, it depends on the songs and the styles that we do. So thank you for this week. More videos coming. Every Monday it's Lick of the Week. Don't forget to subscribe and write in the comments if you have questions, ideas about anything. And I'll see you in a few days. Ciao.